Now, in Surah Al-Mu'minun, so I want to talk about the various ways here that Allah talks about a good salah, and then we can go back to a negative salah. Okay, or a salah that's not the salah of the believer versus the salah of the hypocrite. So let's compare the two in Quranic terminology. In Surah Al-Mu'minun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. That verily the believers have succeeded, those who are humble in their prayers. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. And Allah follows it up by saying, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. And those who abandon idle speech. Those who abandon idle speech. Now I want you to pay attention to a very powerful connection here that's being made. The people who were using their prayers or who do good deeds only to be heard give people so much weight in their vision and in their sight and their hearing to the point that they worship only to be seen by them and be heard by them. Okay? The believers, on the other hand, الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ, they don't hear people when it's not necessary, even outside of worship. So of course they're not going to consider them inside of their worship. Meaning they're not a people who engage nonsense on an extended period of time, on an extended basis. They're not people who connect themselves to what's being said and what's being done. They're people who are looking to their prayer as a unique time to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Khashi'un. And so when they enter into their prayer, it is for Allah and it is with Allah. For Allah and then with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas the hypocrite enters for the people and only with the people. Okay? There's a joke that there was, because back then, by the way, Riyat was extending your sujood, prolonging your sujood in public. Before social media, that's what Riyat was. Riyat and Sadaqah was giving charity publicly and making a spectacle out of it. Okay? Riyat with Salah, was make sure that the people see you prolonging your sujood. So you'll find long, discourse in the books of Tazkiyah about the prolonging of sujood. Right? So they have this joke that there was once a man that was prolonging his sujood, and the people in the masjid saying, MashaAllah, he's been in sujood for so long. And he turns and he says, I'm fasting too. Just to let you know. So that's how innocent Riyat was at the time compared to now, right? I mean, you didn't have ways, like subhanAllah, when you do Hajj and Umrah, and it's like, people look for the perfect dua pose in front of the Kaaba, right? Like, you got the phone ready? Make sure you catch the Kaaba in the background, And of course, I'm not saying everyone who's taking a picture making dua with the Kaaba in the background is guilty of Riyat, but I'm saying it's just not very innocent. As a whole, like the devices of Riyat that we have now are far more, what's the right word? Involved, that we can highlight certain things that people would not be able to highlight in the past, right? The mechanisms of it are very different. So back then it was, are they going to see me in the masjid? It was for the people and with the people. Whereas for the believer, it's for Allah and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when they get into their prayer, they're considering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Something that one of my teachers had mentioned to me, and I never forgot it. He said, when you lead the salah, you're not talking to the people behind you, you're talking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some people, when they recite, Allah protect us, they're reciting for the people behind them, right? If you think about an imam, you're reciting for the people behind you maybe. You're trying, what are you doing with your qira'ah? What are you doing with... So he's like, you need to talk to Allah, and the people are listening to you talk to Allah. You're not talking to the people with Allah listening to you. So like shifting a paradigm when you're in your prayer. So, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Those who pray for Allah and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ. They cut out the unnecessary noise. In general, they program themselves to where they cut out unnecessary noise. So surely the noise does not become a goal in and of itself. The way that the hypocrite actually seeks the noise. Because the noise is what they worship. Okay? So that's one way Allah mentions it. The prayer of the believer. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. Those who within their prayers have khushu'. What is the meaning of the word khushu', by the way?
Like you're, kind of shy in front of Allah, I don't know. That's how I would think the Arabic means, but I'm not sure.
So the technical part, right, or a manifestation of khushu' is that you're shy with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's something else to it though. I want to keep hearing y'all out. What do you think khushu' is in salah? Yeah.
Could it mean like having humility and being like utterly humble in front of Allah?
Humility, being humbled in front of Allah. True.
Total focus.
Focus.
What she said, but with sincerity.
So what she said, but with sincerity.
Yeah.
So humility with sincerity. One more.
It could also mean like totally like leaving everything aside and submitting oneself.
Leaving everything aside and submitting oneself. So all of you are right, because it's one of those answers that encompasses all of those things. However, the root of khushu' is actually silence. Silence. وَخَشَعَتِ الْأَصْوَاتُ لِلرَّحْمَنِ. The voices are silenced to the most merciful. So on the Day of Judgment, when the people are standing on the Day of Judgment and they're witnessing the mashahid, the scenes of the Day of Judgment, you are silenced outside and inside. You're not thinking about anything else. Like you're not watching the Day of Judgment unfold and thinking about your lunch or thinking about your next meeting, right? You're totally immersed and focused on what the matter at hand. And so khushu' is to silence. You say, put your phone on silent. Silence everything else other than the prayer in those moments.